I hadn't planned on staying. Honestly, I was just dropping by to grab something my friend had left behind at his place. A hoodie. Nothing important. The house sat quiet at the end of the street, porch light glowing against the dusk. I expected him to swing the door open with his usual grin, but instead it was his mom, Elena, who greeted me. She stood framed in the doorway, a soft cardigan draped over her shoulders, her hair tucked back loosely as if she'd been halfway through tidying up. There was a calm elegance about her that always unsettled me a little, not because it was intimidating, but because it made me aware of myself, of how young it must seem in comparison. "Oh, you're here for the hoodie?" she asked, smiling warmly. Her voice carried that quiet steadiness I'd always noticed, the kind that could ease a restless mind without even trying. I nodded, awkward in the way I usually was around her. "Yeah, I'll grab it and head out." But before I could excuse myself, another voice floated from deeper in the house, lilting and amused. "Head out. Not before you say hello, at least." That was her sister, Marissa. She appeared in the hallway like a lighter, more playful mirror of Elena, her hair darker, her expression sharper, like she was always in on some private joke. She wore a casual blouse, sleeves rolled up, and the faint scent of jasmine followed her as she approached. My plan to slip in and slip out dissolved instantly. Elena stepped aside, motioning me in. "Come, don't just stand there. He's gone for the weekend with his dad, didn't he tell you?" I hesitated. My friend had mentioned something about it, but I hadn't connected the dots. Now I was standing in their doorway uninvited, facing two women who looked entirely too comfortable filling the quiet space where he wasn't. "Stay for dinner," Marissa said, her tone more insistence than suggestion. "It's silly to rush off when the table's already set." I opened my mouth to politely decline, but Elena's expression stopped me. She wasn't forceful like her sister, but there was a gentle expectancy in her eyes, like she actually wanted me there. And maybe I didn't want to be rude, or maybe deep down I didn't want to leave just yet. The kitchen smelled faintly of rosemary and garlic, something simmering on the stove. The lights were warm, golden against the fading evening. When I finally stepped inside, Elena closed the door with a soft click, and the sound settled heavily in my chest. At the table, I found myself caught between them. Elena moved gracefully, placing glasses down, brushing past me with the subtle brush of fabric against my arm. Marissa teased her about burning thesaurus, laughing in a way that seemed to test how I'd react, as if I was part of their private circle. Noticed the small things. How Elena's nails tapped lightly against the rim of her glass when she listened. How Marissa tilted her head when she laughed, watching me longer than necessary. These weren't things I would normally pay attention to, but in that house, in their company, every detail felt amplified. Dinner wasn't loud or extravagant. It was simple, yet it pulled me into a space I hadn't expected. Me at a table, not with my friend, but with two women who carried themselves with a confidence I wasn't used to. I told myself it was nothing, just a meal. Still, as I lifted my glass and caught both of their eyes in turn, I couldn't ignore the quiet current moving underneath the conversation. It wasn't supposed to feel like this. The meal stretched longer than I thought it would. Not because of the food, though Elena's cooking was better than anything I'd had in weeks, but because neither of them seemed in a hurry to end the evening. Elena kept the conversation steady, her voice low and warm, asking about my classes, the kind of work he wanted to do, what I saw for myself in the next few years. It wasn't the sort of half-listening people my age often gave each other. She asked as though the answers mattered, like she was gathering pieces of me she wanted to hold on to. When I admitted I wasn't sure about anything, whether school was the right fit, whether I was chasing the wrong goals, her eyes softened, and for a moment she looked almost proud of my honesty. "Uncertainty," she said, folding her napkin in her lap, "isn't failure, it's just proof you're still moving." Marissa, of course, couldn't let the mood stay too serious. She leaned an elbow on the table, her bracelets clinking lightly, and smirked at me. "Don't let her fool you," she said. "When we were your age, we had no clue either. She just likes pretending she's always been wise." Elena shot her sister a look, but there was affection behind it. And then they were both laughing, the sound filling the kitchen in a way that Madame strangely comfortable, like it belonged there. Still, I couldn't shake the awareness of the space between us. How it shifted, tightened, loosened again depending on where their eyes landed, or how close their hands came to mine when passing dishes. At one point, Elena set the bread basket near me. Her fingers brushed against the side of my forearm, light as a stray thread. The contact was gone in an instant, yet it sent a quiet jolt through me when it tried to disguise by reaching quickly for a slice. Later, Marissa leaned across me to pour another splash of wine into my glass. She didn't need to get that close. Her shoulder brushed against mine, her hair falling forward enough for me to catch the clean floral trace of her perfume. She lingered just a beat longer than necessary, and when she pulled back, her lips were curved, in a knowing smile, though she didn't say anything. I tried to focus on the food, on the easy flow of their conversation, but every detail felt sharper now. The low light overhead, the faint hum of the refrigerator, the way Elena's laughter had a softer note when she was amused while Marissa's rang brighter, almost teasing the room itself. I realized then that it wasn't distance I felt. It was the opposite. They were drawing me in, each in their own way. Elena with her quiet steadiness, Marissa with her playful spark, and I was caught between them, not uncomfortable, but aware of how quickly a simple dinner had turned into something heavier, something I didn't quite have words for yet. After dinner, none of us seemed ready to let the night end. Elena carried the plates to the sink, humming under her breath as she rinsed them. Marissa poured herself another glass of wine and shot me a look that seemed to ask, "You're not leaving yet, are you?" I wasn't. The three of us drifted into the living room where thea lamps glowed in soft pools of gold. Elena settled into the corner of the couch, curling her legs beneath her and pulling a throw blanket over her lap. Marissa stretched out on the opposite side, reclining casually as if the room belonged entirely to her. That left me in the middle, a spot I hadn't realized would feel so exposed. Someone put on music, a slow, easy playlist of old songs I only half recognized, the kind of music that doesn't fill the room but lingers like background warmth, like a fire burning low. Conversation meandered. They asked about my family, about what I did with friends on weekends, about the small things. He told stories that felt ordinary, but they listened as though they were hearing something valuable. Elena's eyes had that quiet weight again, steady as if she was memorizing me piece by piece. Marissa tilted her glass. While I spoke, her gaze sharp and amused, catching every hesitation, every small pause. Then, without meaning to, we drifted into deeper territory. Not by a question, not directly, but the kind of shift that happens when the night grows later, when people grow tired of small talk. Marissa spoke first, telling me about a relationship that hadn't worked out. She said it lightly as though it was old news, but the way her fingers traced the rim of her glass betrayed a trace of something unhealed. Elena added her own story, softer and less sharp, about how sometimes you can love someone and still feel completely unseen. I didn't know what to say, but they didn't need me to fix anything. They only wanted to be heard. And maybe that was why, when I admitted quietly that I often felt out of place among people my age, they listened with the same intensity. "I don't know," I said, looking down at my hands. "Sometimes I feel older than I am, like I'm out of sync with everyone else." The room stilled. Elena's face softened, her lips parting as if she wanted to respond, but couldn't find the words right away. Marissa's smile faded into something gentler, more searching. The air between us thickened. I was suddenly aware of how close we sat, how Elena's knee nearly brushed mine beneath the blanket, how Marissa's shoulder rested just inches away. A moment later, Marissa lawed, breaking the tension but not erasing it. "You're dangerous, you know that," she said, raising her glass toward me, talking like that. Elena said nothing. She only reached out, resting her hand lightly on my knee for the briefest moment before pulling it back, as if she'd startled herself. And in that instant, I realized the night wasn't just drifting. It was carrying us, somewhere none of us had expected, to go. The music had quieted to a murmur in the background, the kind of sound you barely notice until the silence between voices becomes too heavy. I leaned back against the couch, trying to look relaxed, though my pulse betrayed me. Elena shifted slightly under her blanket. "Here he's never leaving me." There, Was a pause, the kind that felt intentional, and then she asked softly, almost tentatively, "Do you ever feel misunderstood by people your age?" The question hit harder than I expected. Her voice wasn't casual. It carried the weight of someone who already knew the answer, but wanted to hear me admit it. I hesitated, glancing at Marissa, who was watching me with that sharp, curious expression she always wore when something real was about to be said. My throat felt dry, but I forced myself to answer. "Yeah," I said quietly. "A lot, actually." I let out a short, humorless laugh. "Most of the time I feel like I didn't fit. I'm not interested in the same things."